Okay, everybody, we're back. A few weeks later. It's taken me some time to get all these parts and stuff cleaned up. Everything got an electrolysis bath. The surface rust that you do see is new rust, actually. The electrolysis took almost everything off, but sitting for so long, it's kind of developed a little bit of surface rust back on it. So what I'm going to do, take care of that. A little bit of steel wool. We'll take care of most of it. Use a Scotch Brite also if you have it. I just don't have any handy right now. Steel wool works, it just takes a little more elbow grease. I'm going to wipe it and clean it off. Then I'm going to get the paste wax. Use any brand you want, I just happen to have Midwax on hand. And that can be used to seal the metal to help reduce rusting in the future. So let that sit on there a few minutes. And once it dries, you can buff it off. That'll just prevent more rust from developing. It's not critical. Also, I will wax the runners where any moving parts are going to be. So this is what the beds slide up and down on. Just help them run a little bit smoother. Use a little bit of wax. Alright, again, I'll let that dry for a while. The paint I used was that hammer finish, Rust-Oleum. This is the gray, which actually it's very silver. It's very metallic. It's a lot more metallic than what I actually wanted it to do, but it's already covered, so I'm kind of stuck with it now. And I'm not going to strip it all off to redo it. It's a shop tool. So it's time to get into putting it together. First step will be get the beds on this thing, which are kind of cumbersome because they go on the bottom. So I gotta flip the machine over to do it. Let's get the set screw here. You need to be careful when you put these beds on because there's a U-notch right here, and that's actually where this bolt falls into, like that. So when you screw it up and down, the bed will actually move up and down with the rails. Let me get my beds here waxed up as well. And that's okay. I got paint on the rails on the bottom sides of the bed. It's not going to kill anything. Over time it'll wear off. So I'm not too concerned about it. And make sure this all goes together like this. Gotta screw this in enough to you'll be able to get the screws or the bolts on the bottom of it. There we go. Another way, just set it all the way over. Ta-da! This guy had springs. So each machine's going to be different. I don't know how yours are going to be. This one is washer, spring, washer, and then it's got two nuts to lock it in. So the first one will go on and tighten down. And then the second one will have to go in and tighten down on top of it. And the idea is to lock the nuts together. Because when you take two nuts, you tighten the one as tight as you can, and you tighten the one behind it as tight as you can, and then locks them and they can't move. Or reduces movement. I wouldn't say can't move. Reduces movement. I did fully paint the inside of this, again to help reduce with rust. The less bare metal you have, the less rust you're going to have. These washers are going to slide on the paint, and over time they'll wear down, and it'll remove paint, but I'm not worried about it. I mean, this machine's, from the research I've done, this is a Shotmaster J0401. Sometime in the 60s or 70s is when this thing appeared. So it's lasted this long. And it's done pretty well so far. I doubt it's been restored before. Let's get the second bed on there, exact same trick. Make sure that neck for the bolt goes in there like that. There we go. Gotta tighten it up a little bit more here. It's not even on the track yet. There we go. Again, same thing. Washer, spring, washer, and this will also get a double nut. Now, if you're worried about the bare metal hardware that I'm using, yes, they are bare metal. Except I did coat them in WD-40, and they've been soaked in WD-40, so that should help with the rust also. Now put the second nut on, tighten the top one on top of it, and that'll lock it in place. And what holds this bed in is the spring pressure. Flip her back over here. Now it looks like an anvil. Ta-da! Got a lot of alignment stuff to do here. So kind of get it in a rough. I gotta loosen that back up. That didn't fall into the track like it was supposed to do. Where'd that socket wrench go? Always lose the tools I just put down. I never lose anything years later. That bed wasn't seated properly on its rails when I first put it on. I gotta get that done. This old machine's very tight fitting. There it goes. No, on one side. The other. It's gotta be exact. There it goes. Now it's in there. Again, I'm not trying to hammer these home because they are supposed to move a little bit. Let me grab a wrench here. This way, when I tighten this guy down, that lower nut doesn't move. Okay, that's good. Now we're ready to flip her over. Boom. Attached. And to crank this bed up, actually takes a lot of effort. I may have that spring tension too tight. I definitely got that spring tension too tight. So I'm going to loosen that back up. back him out a little bit. Also, one of the issues may be that paint that's in that rail. And I think I'll take it apart. Scrape that paint out of there. I might as well do it to both. Well, I got it apart. If I don't do it now, I'll have to do it later. I gotta get her apart. Little tight again. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a blade, clean these runners off. That's what's binding. So lessons learned. And that'll help. With the movement. I know, real exciting watching this to go down. Don't want to flick that in the paste wax. The paste wax all dirty. I need a bit of sandpaper. I need something square to get it down in there. Let me grab one of the square sanding blocks. I like these old sanding blocks. These are worn out, but they're still nice because you can wrap paper around them and use them. Leave scrap out of there. A little more aggressive. That's trash. A little more aggressive. All right. Not perfect. Much smoother though. That should help. Yeah. Already fits better. I can feel it. This guy off. Do the same thing. Quite get that much off of that one here. Let's see what we can do. I'm actually going to re-wax it. Just help it glide that much better. Okay. Alright. Still tight. So I got the beds going, all cleaned up and working beautifully. Let me see if I can get that. I'll show you. So we watch the right hand side of that bed. Grades and lower. It's real hard to see, but if you look at it here, it's lower. So working much better. Had to clean out all those tracks and everything, make sure they're good and waxed and lubricated. And now they're working fine. But now I'm at the point where I'm going to install blades and cutter head. So I don't know if I'm actually going to get the blades in right now. I set that job there, and now this thing's designed You can see down in the hole. Let me get to this clear one. There's 2 set screws, and they determine the height of the blade, how far it sticks out. You tighten it, the blade will go in deeper. So I'm going to bottom them out right now, and then you loosen it, the blade will protrude out of the head further. Now, one thing I'm having a hard time is finding blades for this machine. Since it's so old, I'm not even sure what blades it takes. I know for a fact the blades that were in it do not belong to it. But they may have worked at some point. The blades I ordered are not even the same blades because I can't find the same blades that were in it. So I know that they will not work. And what they have here is this is a clamp. It kind of goes down in here, and there's 3 screws that hold it in place. And how that works is you take your blade, you put her in there, and you put this clamp down in here. And when you tighten it up, that blade won't go anywhere because it's got equal pressure all the way across it. It also will stay straight. It won't wander or any of that. So it works just like that. Now I'm going to get the fence system on because I've got to use the fence to set these blades. Let me get that going. Move you back to the tripod. And the fence system all anchors into the back of it here. Let's get this job going here. Actually, make this a little easier on me. Just take the tilt her up. Okay. That's the part that holds the fence all together. I'm going to do a lot of similar things as I did with the bed. I'm going to coat all this with paste wax. Help protect it. Make it work a little bit better. Get base racks on stuff, that's fine, ain't gonna hurt nothing. That's pretty alright. Use my box of hardware I got here. Try to figure out where some of this stuff goes. There we go. Now that piece adjusts the depth. That's how far over this fence is going to go. And I can tighten her down there and then move it all. Just some set screws to kind of hold this assembly together here. Pulled them out because I wanted to take these rods totally out, but even when I pulled them out, I couldn't do it. They're good and corroded in. For some reason, electrolysis couldn't even get that out. Alright, nailed that. Now for this job here, this guy goes like that, and this will adjust the height. Stuff's rather ingenious. Little screw here, little screw down, and it's on. Now, let's see, these go on the outside, like thus. There's a little set screw there I need to put back in. Now this set screw actually does hold something in. It holds this rod. Get that together here. Holds this rod on through. So, put this over it, and then run this little rod down through there. I'm not going to grease that rod because that rod for some reason is made of aluminum. I don't understand that. The whole machine's steel, one little aluminum rod. I'm going to tap that in with the hammer here. Grab my nail set. The other side. It's not high enough. Take her off there. Makes that rather easy to do. Keep that from going around too much. Well, I need to back him out. Alright. Now I'll tighten it down. Now this adjusts the angle. So I can go that on the outside there. So I can go up and down, in and out, and then forward and backwards. So this whole fence here will get all lined up when I'm done. Alright. Now you may ask, so that's the angle. How do you lock that in? Well, that's where this little job comes in. It goes right here like this. It has its own set screw here. That there is it for the fence assembly. So to use that, tighten that up a little tighter than I thought. So move it in and out. You can move it up and down. And then with this little guy, I can tilt it joint angles, beveled edges. Right now I don't want to do that. Right now, I want it perfectly square with the bed. I'm sure if I can get this down low enough where you can see this. And I want it square like this. There's a great big gap right at the top. So I'm going to loosen him up and tilt him forward until that gap is closed. Tighten it up. I'm going to check it in a few locations. Very nice. Very nice. So now I know this fence is 90 degrees to that bed. Voila. Problem is, I've got to still install some blades and stuff. Makes it easy. I'm going to pop this off like this. And now I have a clear runway for my blades. Let me get these in and I'll show you how I'm going to adjust them. Okay, well, I'm back. Machine's put together and now it's time to tune these blades. So I'm going to get down here, make this a little easier on me. Let me pop this guy out of the tripod. It's going to shake here for a second. So what I'm doing is there's 3 blades in this cutter head, and all 3 blades need to be set up to be identical. There's old school methods. They're tried and true. They're, you cut a board, measure it, adjust the blades, cut a board, measure, adjust the blades, and you can do that. But this new method is called a jointer pal. Read the instructions, and this will work with jointers that have fence or don't. I do. And it says step 1 is to square your fence to the outfeed table. So voila, that is done. Step 2 is to find top dead center of your blades. And I did that on the first blade that I already did. Is this line. Top dead center is where the apex of the blade first makes contact with the wood. How you do this is you take a piece of wood that you know is straight and you rock your blade back and forth, and what it's going to do is as you push forward, it'll push the blade forward, you push back, it'll pull the board back until it just barely doesn't do that, but still makes contact. And then it says make a mark where that is. Next step is take your jointer pal, sorry it's magnetic so it kind of sticks to the table, and line the forward mark with that line that you've got. Then you take the rear mark and make a mark on your fence again. Remove your jointer pal, use a square, make a vertical mark on your fence, then lay it down and make a horizontal mark across the outfeed table. Okay, once you just score these marks, and you can use a hardened chisel blade or a gouge or something. I'm just using pencil marks because I don't want to score into my beds. Next step, now this is specific to me, is I got to pull my fence off. It actually interferes with the adjustment screws in the cutter head. I don't have enough room to work. And I take this joiner pal and I set it back to where that rear line is lined up with the mark that I made. So pencil mark in the jointer pal. And now I sit here and I just adjust my blades up to match. Now the reason I have to remove my fence is the way the clamps are on my cutter head. I've got these 3 Allen screws, one on each end, one in the middle. They have to come completely out because the pressure on the blade is so tight I actually can't move it. I'm gonna bump my camera here doing this. There it is. And that way I can relieve the pressure. Relieve the pressure off the blade. So see, now I can move that clamp, and the cutter head will move also. Or the blade, knife, whatever you want to call it. So when I put this back in place, it's going to magnetize and pull that blade to the bottom of the magnets. So when you look at the bottom of these things, there's these old rare earth magnets on there. And this job pulls and lifts the blade to those magnets. And it should be perfectly in line and hold right there. At this point, it says go ahead and tighten it down. I've got these little set Allen heads in the bottom of this blade that need to make contact with the bottom of my blade. So let me try to get this number in here. Sorry, this part's kind of hard to see. And what I'm watching for, I want those set screws to meet the bottom of that blade without adding height to it. What I'm watching is I'm watching it to lift here. I can see it lifting, shining a light underneath. I'm going to exaggerate it just for you guys. There's a light underneath now. And then I'm going to back it back down. Until it touches. The whole time during this, I got to make sure the cutting edge of that blade stays in line with that mark on that joiner pal. So let me do it again on this side. Sorry, I got to back you away a little bit to be able to do this. I go down to the set screw, and I'm still watching. I'm watching for this one to lift, but I want to make sure this side stays lined up. And it lifts, and I bring it right back down. And now that blade is backed by that set screw. And now I can tighten this clamp after I make sure my blade is adjusted side to side correctly. Oops. I did not mean to do that. But that is not going to hurt a thing because the set screws on the inside are already set up. See how nice that worked? I gotta make sure this back edge is in line with the drum head here. Clamp her down. I put my other screws back. And since that is now my third head, this cutter head is set. Check. I just did that because it's kind of hard to keep track of 3 cutter heads as you're spinning this job around. And actually that's way off on this side. That's the problem. So when I lifted that blade out, I didn't pull the clamp out of the way for the blade to totally sit back down in that opening. And I can see on the edge here, it's much larger. So, simple fix. Since those Allen heads are, like I said, already set, I don't have to go through that procedure again. And I just do this. pull that clamp up enough for that blade to sit down in the bottom. That's better. Take a look here. I want to make sure that blade's sitting on those set screws. That's all I'm doing. Crank her down. Ideally, it shouldn't have done that because it should have had that center Allen head tightened down enough to hold it in place. And I can get these outside set screws in, or outside Allen screws. And that's how those blades are set. So now, all three should be perfectly the same. Oh, I got something catching in here. I know exactly what it is too. Since I can't find the exact blades for this machine, I have to use blades that should work. Well, that should be okay. Let's see what any of them are catching. There it goes. So I had to make some adjustments here. This is a 6-inch jointer. These blades are 6 1/8 of an inch, which is kind of a modern thing. Give you a little extra cutting capacity. What I really need to do is I need to cut the ends off of each of these blades, but I'm not going to. These spin freely, they spin nice, and away they go. So, and I can spin it by hand by the spindle. Nailed it. Now one thing I do need to do is, this is the pulley for the belt. I had to drill the set screw out of it because it would not back out. So what I need to do is I need to go get a new set screw to fit it, and then tap this out to accept that new set screw. Then I don't have to wait until tomorrow. So the machine will sit here for the night, not do anything. I'm going to coat this bed in wax again, just as I did with everything else. And then once that's done, I'll be ready for a test. So I'll be back for that. Okay, everyone. I finally got the jointer all done. Blades are set. I had to do a little work on the pulley that drives it here. It's up here underneath. Had to drill that set screw out when I did the disassembly, so I had to re-drill it and tap it for a new set screw, and then put a new belt on. I have not done the stand or the motor. I don't know if I will do the stand or the motor, especially right now. I got other things I got to get working on. But I did do a couple tests, and it seems to work beautifully. So let's give this a whirl. Use a pencil here to mark it up. See what I got going on here. Now the guide is not on it, or the guard is not on it. I've got it here. You know, safety orange. Ta-da! I got to get a new screw to get that to work, but eventually that will be on and that will function. So right now I do kind of want to show you guys what this thing's made of. So I use push pads, keep my hands good and clear. I don't want to put my hands into the blades. Honestly, I don't want to put my hands over the blades either, but I'm going to for this example. So first pass took most of it. This board has a slight cup or a bow in it, so it didn't touch this last part, but let's get that part taken care of here. Let's do this again. care of everything but this last little corner. So one more time. Should do it. It's all gone. Beautiful. Let me check for flatness here. So taking something you know is straight. It's my cheap level here. And I don't see any light. Make sure I'm going to hold it. See if I can hold the camera in this at the same time. I take the board, I even hold it up to the lights in the ceiling, and I see no gaps. So I know that that surface is perfectly flat. And then I got a joint and edge. So you take your rough stock, joint and edge. Now, this does not make perfectly square boards. What it does is it flattens one face. You take that face, put it up against the fence. I have a flat face, the face that I put against the fence there, and then a perfectly square edge to go with it. I don't have a square handy, but that is perfectly square. It's actually kind of sharp. It's so square. So machine works beautifully. Now what I would do to finalize this board is I would take the jointed edge I just did. I'm not sure which one it is. The jointed edge I just did. Put that against the fence of my table saw, and then I can rip it. Because table saws don't cut straight edges, they cut parallel edges, parallel to your fence. So a good way to keep from losing track, like I keep doing, is I mark the sides that are not done. And that way I know that's not a finished edge. Next step is going to be, I need to find a planer. I don't own one. I do want one. And what a planer does is it does the same idea as a table saw, but does it to the face of the board. So table saw makes a parallel edge to a jointed edge. A planer makes a perfectly parallel face to a bottom face. This board, because I've been using it for testing, is actually off quite a bit. I don't know if you can see how far off it is, but it's actually off by quite a lot because I've been sitting there just playing with it, kind of testing and cleaning up. If I take my old micrometer here, put it on that edge, is 0.395 versus this edge is 0.525. So that's 13 thousandths, 13 hundredths, which is huge. Yeah, that's about 1/8 of an inch actually thickness difference. So I would call this a success. I do need to work on some sort of dust collection. This machine, so we built a chute here. I don't think this is factory. I've never seen this before. But it's actually kind of genius because it takes all the trimmings, pushes them down so it doesn't go over the motor, and dumps them on the floor. Not the end of the world. I'll sweep it up, throw it in the garbage can. It does make nice fine shreddings though. Beautiful. So yeah, this will be the end of this video series, and hopefully I'll be back for more.